Okay, today we're having like just a work session um because I am working on a project, and I also just got into a master's degree program, and I also just got a new job that offered to me. It's going to be taking up my time, and I have other things to do, and I just feel like I have to like get a move on. If I'm going to finish this by the deadline I've set in my head, I got to get a move on and just get my idea together. And I I had a reading session yesterday, and it was so like intense. I don't know, because the thing about this personal project is that it basically is also just coinciding with like my experience, and my experience of trauma has been basically guiding this project that I've been doing. And I was reading this text yesterday, and it really was just like, it was about hippocampal sharp wave ripples, but basically it like was just explaining to me what was going on in my own head. Like I was like, oh, okay. And I was just really sitting with it yesterday and just had such insight into what was going on in my mind. And I think I was just like, this is intense. And I meant to get a lot of work done today, but I was so exhausted, like just drained. Yesterday, last night, like today, I just was drained. I just slept. Because I think I was just like sitting with everything and just like internalizing it and just trying to understand it and unpack it. But I kind of want to get a move on today because I'm trying to build a neural network. I've never done that before, but I have blind faith in myself that I can do it. And basically, but the idea is the important part. And I feel like my idea is spot on. Cause I was reading it, and I was reading everything, and I was like, this is my life. So I was like, this is seeming spot on. I just need to get the neural network built. But I want to make sure that what I'm building is like good, accurate. So we're just gonna have a thinking session today. Mosita. This is my cat. Her name is Mozart. Actually, the family that I adopted her from named her, and her name is Mozart because she meows a lot, and I guess it kind of sounds like singing, so they named her that. But Mozart is such a boy's name, so I call her Mosey, except when I'm like mad at her, or I need to like, tell her what to do, so then I call her Mozart. But yes, this is Mosey. Look how baby she is, or Mosita sometimes. Okay, here we are in my room, in my bed, which is where I'm gonna be doing work today. I have my highlighters. I have I don't know why I love writing on this giant pad of paper. It's like my favorite thing ever. Like, I just feel like my brain just works better on this giant pad of paper. And then we have my iPad, which is where I was reading yesterday. And I'm just gonna take some time to sit with what I read yesterday, and I might read some more. First of all, I'm kind of geeking out because I'm currently reading this text about hippocampal sharpwave ripples, and it went into actually talking about how those affect place cells in the brain. And I'm actually about to go to the same university that the person who discovered these place cells teaches. So I highly doubt I'll ever interact with him, but it just made me kind of like, I don't know, I just got kind of hyped because I was like, oh, that's crazy. And it's crazy that's actually like contributing to what like I'm doing and helping me. So yeah, interesting. But I've just been writing. I'm sitting here. I'm just basically writing down like what I learned from this text. I feel like it's funny because as I'm reading, things are sinking in for me in a way that I don't really like. I can't really like access it, but I'm like feeling it click in. It's so grainy, but let me tell you guys a little bit about how my experience has been sort of guiding this process right now, and particularly what I'm reading about sharp wave ripples. So basically, I went through a traumatic experience like maybe 5, 6 years back, and I didn't process everything really well. Like, I didn't process like practically anything for like the first, I don't know, 7, 8 months. Like, I didn't at all. Like, I didn't really remember very like anything. And then as time passed, things sort of drifted out of my life that were really massive stressors. And as those stressors drifted out of my life, I actually started to be able to process what was happening to me. I guess that's the best way I can put it. And I still, like, my memory, I guess, of that period of time in my life is still not good. But what I noticed was that, so in the aftermath of this traumatic experience, at first I just had like extremely severe mental health issues. And then after I started to actually like recover some things and like sort of sit with some things, what happened is that I went through a period of like quite a few years where I was really I had sort of grappled with the fact that like what had occurred, but my mind was not very good at processing the world at all. Like it was just not good at processing, and it would make all sorts of confusing connections that didn't make sense, but my brain sort of just ran with them, and they became sort of like part of how I process the world and all of these things. And it was like a hassle to really get to what was underneath these sort of bizarre connections that my brain was sort of making. The connections didn't have anything to do with my traumatic experience. They were more like these sorts of strange ways that I was just processing reality, and or like, you know, stories that sort of kept me from really sitting with what had occurred to me and just were like complete, like almost like distractions, I would say. And in the midst of all of this processing that I was doing, I was also going through another really intense stressor, which was trying to have an investigation towards this person, and it was really a big pain, and that was also re-traumatizing as well. So I was really struggling a lot to sort of process the world, and I think a lot of the times I ended up just really not being very good at processing at all, really. And but anyways, and so but what I started to realize was that as I was going through, as stressors would drift out of my life, it would become easier and easier for me to process what had happened to me. Like, for example, after I left school, I think my mind would first sort of run with these sorts of stories and these sorts of compulsions and things. And they would sort of flare up in a way to sort of like distract me. And then as I sort of tried to work through them, I would have more memory and things coming up. But it wasn't memories always of just the severely traumatic sort of event, but also of like residual information that I think I just had forgotten. I wasn't, for example, I couldn't remember very well like the classes that I had taken that year. And sometimes I would just have bits of information float in from those classes or things. I was like, whoa, hadn't thought of that in like the longest time, or, you know, things like that, that just sort of, I think I just started to get like a more cohesive picture of not just not just a traumatic event, but also everything that was going on around me during the traumatic event, like all of these other sorts of memories and experiences that I was having. And as I've gone along, like the more that has come out of my life, like the more I've been able to just like recall things that had happened to me, or recall like the emotions that I felt, or just really sit with them in like a very vivid way. I think that sometimes even the things that I could sort of remember, like they were very as if I was a different person. Like I was looking at them as if another person was experiencing them. So had really heavily sort of dissociated from this time in my life by like a lot. But what I went along sort of, I'm just really, really trying to sort of get rid of these sorts of ways that I had been processing the world, because they were becoming like sort of frustrating to deal with or harmful because they just weren't very accurate. And basically, I started to have to sort of become really, really observant about what my mind was sort of doing and was dealing with. So, for example, I noticed that when I was like falling asleep, memories would come up, or when I was in a really relaxed state, you know, things of that nature. When I was really relaxed or really just like in a better place, you know, bad things sort of drifted out, then I would finally be able to sit with, like, memories would just come up without me trying to recollect them. They would just appear. And so that was sort of guiding me through and just like, you know, informing me. And so basically when I went to try to study what I was trying to study, I was reading around to try to figure out how sort of an adjacent dissociative disorder, like I was like, how could that work? I'm making a full video of like this project that I'm working on, so I'll explain all of the science that I sort of got me to where I got. But I started reading about something called hippocampal sharpwave ripples, and basically these ripples that occur in the hippocampus are like a clocking mechanism in the brain, right? And so the text that I'm reading now is basically about place cells and how when these ripples occur, like these ripples sort of happen in various times as an animal walks through a location, and then later, so it and then later when they sleep and they rest, these ripples sort of happen, these little replay events occur, and these help the animal to basically encode the memory so that they know not only where they were but also when they were there. So it's pretty interesting stuff. But I was just reading this and just sitting with so much of like this, and like, like, yeah, I think this is definitely going to be the thing to be this answer to what I'm looking for, because basically they appear also, they sort of happen to help our minds encode memory. um and yeah, and it basically, it said, well, this in text didn't say it, but a different one said that it helps people to have like coordinated memory recall. And I thought people with these disorders basically have a really hard time, like, people remember things really late, or they recover memories later in life, and that the science has been really sort of confusing and wishy-washy on that. But I thought this might be a really good solution, and also it made sense to me because a lot of times these events occur when you're at rest or when you're relaxed. And I thought that showed me two things. First of all, that is what was happening to me. So when I was like on my way to fall asleep, that's the usually when I'm falling asleep is the time that I'll have like more traumatic sort of memories appear, or things that maybe are a little deeper down in my subconscious mind. That's when they sort of pop up in my head, or all of these things when I'm in a really relaxed state and about to fall asleep. And then it also made me think, the thing is that even now, so I would say now I don't have these sorts of bizarre connections as much in my head and all these little compulsive sort of things. But when I'm walking around, usually when I'm walking around, I start to get in these really sort of high stress states, even though I'm not stressed out about anything in particular. Like usually I used to love going on really long walks and my mind would just wander and I would just walk around. But I can't go on long walks anymore because I start to have really severe, these sorts of like stress episodes. And so it literally stops me from being able to walk around. So I just have to basically like do what I'm gonna do. I push myself to get there and go home, and then I just have to come back to my room, which is really sucky. But I think that it's basically that's happening because I'm going into like a sort of place where I'm just walking around, and I think that's usually when I usually would love to go on long walks to sort of process everything, and I think that is maybe the reason why I haven't been able to walk around and I've been stressed, because I think that it's my mind's way of continuously pulling me back from being able to consolidate all of these experiences. So that's sort of been my thought process that's been guiding me through this science, and just been trying to figure out like how to put this into a format that like so I can actually experiment and see if that works. I'm waiting for something to click. I feel like something really needs to click here for me, even though I'm like, I understand this, but what am I waiting for? But I feel like I'm waiting for something. So let me talk aloud in this very grainy video. But basically it says here, this is what first I thought it, then I read it. So I was like, would that happen? And then yeah, it does happen according to this. But basically, so when these sharp wave ripples are, sort of coordinated, it helps to consolidate the memory. But suppression of the sharp wave ripples basically impairs the consolidation of memories. Okay, so imposed replay actually strengthens, while suppression impairs the consolidation. So I'm basically thinking that I'm looking at instances of structural dissociation, so the dissociative disorders. Basically, I'm thinking that these sharp wave ripples are being impaired, and that's causing the symptoms, or are the symptoms the reason why they're being impaired? I don't know. But this was a thing that I was thinking about yesterday. Sometimes I really feel frustration. I feel like, am I ever going to have everything intact? Because there are days that I really don't remember of this traumatic event. This traumatic, not even event, but period of my life. But it says here that sharp wave ripples lead to consolidation of memory content by transferring it from the preliminary storage in the hippocampus to long-term storage in the neocortex. So basically, first of all, that makes me think that I need to have a long-term storage element to my neural network that I'm building, which I didn't think about before. But it also, yesterday, I think this is why I just went home after that and just slept and just processed and reflected, but I started thinking like, well, that means that all of this memory content is not just gone, right? It's just stored in the hippocampus, but it's not getting moved into long-term storage. So the goal for these dissociative disorders would be to get the memories to move from the hippocampus to long-term storage in the neocortex, which has probably been said in another text, but I haven't read whatever that text is. So this is just me thinking and just me being like, so they're in there. Okay, guys, I think that actually was the thing to make my idea kind of click. Let me show you this beautiful image I just drew. So basically what I need my neural network to do is that it's going to have an element of, so it's going to basically have an element that's going to be like the sort of hippocampus, and then it's going to have this element that's like a long-term memory element. The point of my neural network is basically to have this long-term memory. So like, it's going to be sort of like, if it encodes into long-term memory, then the self model can basically sort of recollect it and explain back to me like what's basically occurring, right? So if the sharp-wave ripples are like 100%, they're doing their thing, they're doing what they're supposed to do, this like me model that is occurring in my neural network is going to be able to say, okay, like the memory, oh, you tripped on a banana peel, and then this can say, I tripped on a banana peel. So my question is going to be basically, if the sharp-wave ripples are suppressed, what's going to happen to this me narrative, the self narrative, once the memories, whatever, like what, basically like how is that going to affect the me narrative of my neural network, right? Of like, how is it going to be able to recount sort of the experience back to me? I need to think of, I've been just reflecting and thinking, what's my hypothesis? Because I have a feeling that that's going to basically cause the symptoms that I'm trying to study, but how would that appear in the neural network? I don't know. I guess my hypothesis could be something like, then it won't be able to recollect 100% of what the memory was, but is that interesting? Is that what we want? Is that what we're looking for? I think I need to like sit with myself and try to figure out if that's what I'm looking for. I'm very new at research, okay? I really have only been a research assistant for about 2 years. I'm not, I haven't published anything. I definitely haven't published anything on my own. But I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a simple hypothesis, and I'm going to make this, run it, see what happens, and try to write one thing. And then, you know what? Then it's built. Like, I can still just come up with different hypotheses and also keep testing with the same neural network, right? So I feel like I'm getting caught up in doing like one thing, but I can do many different things. I'll start with this and see if I can like fragment the memory, see if it creates these sort of memory lapses. And I really like, my long-term goal, what I really want to see is if it's going to cause the sort of distraction sort of mechanism that was happening in my mind, that I think it's not even, see, this is where I need to like figure it out and put it into words. I want to see one day if I can give a neural network a dissociative identity disorder. That's my big ambitious goal for one day. I don't know if it'll happen this time around, but I thought like that would be interesting because it's very controversial, but I basically think that like all these structural dissociative disorders are like a spectrum of experiences. I read this in Theory of Structural Dissociation, right? It goes from like post-traumatic stress disorder, like a single event, all the way up to dissociative identity disorder. And I think if I can throw this off like a lot somehow, this is a future idea, maybe I can give a neural network a dissociative identity disorder. That'd be interesting. Apparently it's gonna take me like 3 to 4. ChatGPT says that it thinks it'll take me 3 to 4 weeks to build this neural network. It'll probably take me longer if we're being real, because I also am not doing this full time and I'm working, and I also have never done it before, so I'll probably run into plenty of bumps along the road. But I think that I've now can say like 100% that I finished my like conceptual thinking phase and my reading phase, and I am going to jump in. I'll probably do more reading alongside of it because I still think that I want to understand better like the neural network and how it works and everything. But I think that's my solid 100% basis. So it's cool that I caught that on camera. So yeah, I'm going to build, it's going to have hippocampal memory. So that's going to be that short-term memory sort of function. It's going to have sharp wave ripples and a clocking mechanism. That's the very important thing to me, because I'm trying to see if that's the thing that basically creates this. And then long-term memory, because it needs to go into the long-term memory. And then it's going to have that narrative constructor. These are all the things I told ChatGPT that I wanted. Okay, I wanted the short hippocampal memory, sharp wave ripples, long-term memory, and I want it to be able to tell me about itself. Okay, so that we can see what it remembers. So that will be very interesting. Now, just to end this video, I made my playlist for today. I'm gonna add more to it, but I wanted to talk about some of my favorite artists that I've included in my little playlist. I feel like I haven't been listening to that much music as I've been working right now, because usually I'm reading, so like I can't get distracted by music. But now it's gonna go into building this random little neural network, so I think I will be listening to music. So basically, okay, if you guys have not listened to Orion Sun, I love Orion Sun. I actually saw them sing and perform at Cross the Tracks like last year, and they were so freaking good. And their music is just like it's so personal to me. I feel like Orion Sun is just not well known enough for how good they are, and their music is just like, it's so connected to so many important memories for me. But yeah, go listen to Orion Sun first of all, but they're in my playlist as well. Then we have Erykah Badu. Now, Erykah Badu and I actually said this in another video, but we have a little bit of beef. Even though I love her, because I paid 70 pounds to go see her across the tracks, and she got sick and she wasn't able to make it last minute after I was already inside, and it literally broke my heart and shattered it into a million pieces. And I was like, girl, come back. I want to hear you sing. But unfortunately, she was sick. So I understand and I respect it, but now I have trust issues. But she's also on my playlist. And Princess Nokia, I have been listening to her since I was in high school, and I love her. I've been listening to her since she really only had her like 1992 album out, and this was before she even put Apple Pie on Spotify. She finally put Apple Pie on Spotify, so it's on my playlist, but back then I had to listen to it on YouTube. But yeah, so I love her, and I put like her more chill songs on there from that album. But she's so good, and I listened, one of my favorite videos, this was like my favorite video back then, was her talking at Brown University. So yeah, she's very cool. I like her. Amy Winehouse is like always a favorite. I feel like when I'm just feeling sad, like I just listen to her music, and she and I are both Virgo suns with Leo Venuses, so I feel like she understands my big emotions, you know? So I listen to a lot of Amy Winehouse as well. I'm gonna put more songs on the playlist. Right now it's a bit small, but I thought it'd be fun to have like a memory of this time, so that's my playlist. Last point to this kind of boring video that I've just made, but I think that it has definitely been so fun and rewarding to actually do this, even though sometimes it's been kind of a lot, or I've like faced a lot of self-doubt and just like negativity towards myself, because I think that this turns like my traumatic experience into like a really fun big challenge. Like, you know, like it went from like this sucks and I feel like lost and hopeless to like oh, this is like a really big problem that I could solve if I really put my mind to it and just believe myself. And I think that has just made it, it's given me this element of like fun and excitement and just like I can't wait to see like what happens next. Am I gonna be right? Is this gonna work out? And yeah, I think that I'm not grateful for what happened to me, but I am grateful that I think that it opened up a different side of me, and it just opened, I think it just like maybe I needed like a big challenge. Maybe the universe wanted to throw me a big challenge and I needed it to find myself and become my fullest version of myself. I think it definitely awakened things in me that I didn't really know I had in me. So, I don't know. I think it's been really helping me like find a sense of like peace and purpose in what I went through. And um I don't know. I feel like now when I talk about what happened to me, I don't feel ashamed. I don't feel bad. Like I just feel like this is something that is my work now. Like it's like what I'm working on, and I just feel this level of like respect towards it because it's been just guiding me along this really sort of cool process that I've been really enjoying. So, yeah, I think it's just really been really healing. Okay, just final takeaways because I really just feel like chatting. But I think I just like this is actually like a really important, even though I've only been working a little while, I think it was like a really important work session that I just had here because I think that it was really, I was looking at my neural network before and just being sort of like, this is looking like kind of disjointed and there's like a lot of elements, and I think I didn't have a really clean sense of what it was going to do. And now it just looks like really, really clean. Like it's just really clean, really sharp. Hippocampal memory, long term memory, narrative, me like self narrative, and then the sharp wave ripples, point blank period, done. And then I think I was sitting here like, how am I gonna find what I need to like, what am I looking for? But basically I was like, I think that like what I've been learning about like good research is that you just want it to be as clean as possible. You don't need to have too much to it. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's good for me to think like, oh, I can do a lot of different things with this little model that I'm building, and I can test out different theories. But my first hypothesis is just going to basically be something along the lines of, so disrupting the timing of the hippocampal sharp wave ripples um during the memory consolidation is going to basically result in incomplete integration of the episodic memory into my little self narrative structure. And that's basically going to, my hypothesis is that that will lead to basically early stages of fragmentation. So, yeah, so just if I disrupt SWR timing, I will get early stages of fragmentation. That's it. It doesn't need to be like, I was like, how it needs to be this big thing. It doesn't need to be a big thing because I think this is new enough. Like this is still a pretty new thing that I think I'm doing. And so I can just make it really simple and I have that luxury, I think. This is how I get stared at every single day.